In the Davenport household, there was always a diamond, and it certainly wasn't me. From the time we could walk, my sister Vanessa was the flawless one, the one who won the beauty pageants, led the cheer squad, and climbed the corporate ladder without breaking a sweat. My parents paraded her around like a show pony, praising her choices while quietly, and then loudly, shaming mine. My greatest sin: marrying a man they considered a dirt digger. At Vanessa's wedding, their favoritism curdled into outright cruelty. They forced me to sit outside in a service corridor because a VIP guest was arriving and they needed my seat. I sat there on the cold concrete, humiliated, while my husband, Jack, stood beside me, his jaw clenched. They had no idea that the secrets I'd kept for 3 years were about to detonate their perfect world. My name is Sarah, and this is how I stopped letting my family shrink me into nothingness. Growing up, I was the shadow to Vanessa's light. She was the marketing executive with the shiny hair and the louder laugh. I was the quiet one who studied agronomy and sustainable food systems. My achievements were always footnotes to her headlines. If I published a paper on soil regeneration, my mother would pat my hand and say, "That's lovely, Sarah, but Vanessa just got a company car." Family dinners were essentially press conferences for Vanessa, while I was treated like the catering staff. At my university graduation, my parents arrived late and left early to help Vanessa pack for a business trip. The message was legible in bold print. Vanessa was the triumph. I was the consolation prize. 3 years ago, I met Jack at a soil science convention. He was giving a talk on crop rotation, and I was struck by his brilliance, his calloused hands, and his utter lack of pretension. We dated for a year before he took me to his family farm. It was vast, but Jack lived simply in a small, weathered cabin, driving a beat-up truck and focusing entirely on the land. I fell in love with his integrity long before I knew anything else. When I introduced him to my parents, the reaction was visceral. "A farmer?" My mother sneered, looking at his boots. "Sarah, really? We hoped you'd find someone with prospects." My father joked about us living in a mud hut. Vanessa was the most condescending of all, calling Jack quaint, and asking if he knew what a 401k was. Then Vanessa got engaged to Greg, a slick corporate director for a massive food processing conglomerate. Greg was the son my parents never had. Italian suits, a luxury sedan, and a conversation style that revolved entirely around his quarterly bonuses. My parents worshipped him. Finally, someone worthy of the Davenport name. I married Jack in a small, private ceremony. My parents complained the entire time about the bugs and the lack of champagne. Vanessa's wedding to Greg, however, was designed to be the social event of the season, a $150,000 spectacle with 200 guests. What my family didn't know, because Jack and I chose not to tell them, was that Jack is the founder and sole owner of Heritage Valley AG, a multi-million-dollar agricultural empire. He owns 15,000 acres across the Midwest and supplies raw produce to the very company Greg works for. Jack is worth upwards of $60 million, but he hates flashiness. I was also doing well, earning nearly $200,000 as a sustainability consultant, but we kept our success hidden. Jack said, "If they can't respect Sarah the scientist and Jack the farmer, they don't deserve Sarah and Jack the millionaires." I agreed, though the insult stung. My mother would ask if I was tired of playing in the dirt, while Vanessa bragged about Greg's stock options. My father would sigh and say he always knew I'd settle for less. We took it all. Jack never defended himself with his wallet. "Let them talk," he'd say. "We know who we are." 2 weeks before Vanessa's wedding, disaster struck. The venue demanded a final payment of $15,000 immediately, or they would cancel the event. Greg's parents had backed out of their contribution, and my parents were tapped out. Vanessa was hysterical. Quietly, I arranged an anonymous donation through a shell company, Event Horizon Fund, to cover the balance. Vanessa claimed it was divine intervention. In reality, it was me, trying to be a good sister despite everything. On the wedding day, Jack and I arrived dressed in formal wear. Vanessa intercepted us at the door. "We have a problem," she whispered, not making eye contact. "A major investor is coming, and we're short on seats in the main hall. You and Jack need to wait in the service corridor until the reception." "The corridor?" I asked, stunned. "Just for the ceremony," she waved a hand dismissively. "You don't fit the vibe in there anyway." She ushered us out to a few plastic chairs near the dumpsters. I sat there, fighting back tears of absolute humiliation. Jack was furious, but I begged him to wait. "Don't ruin her day," I whispered. Then Greg stepped out for a cigarette and saw us. "What are you two doing here?" he laughed. "I thought Vanessa hid you." I explained the seating issue. He smirked. "Makes sense. Don't come in until you're called. We have actual important people inside. You guys look like you're dressed for a barn dance." He called me an embarrassment. I started crying. Vanessa came out a moment later, saw my tears and rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, are you making a scene? You look pathetic." In a fit of cruelty, she grabbed a glass of red wine from a waiter tray and splashed it down the front of my dress. "There. Now you have an excuse to leave." My parents walked out, saw the wine on my dress, and my mother sighed. "Sarah, go home. You're ruining the aesthetic." That was it. Jack had seen enough. "Mr. Mitchell," a voice called out. The venue manager came running over, looking terrified. "Mr. Mitchell, we had no idea you were on the property. If we'd known the owner was attending, we would have opened the VIP suite." Greg froze. Vanessa went pale. My parents looked confused. Jack, my dirt digger husband, smiled coldly. "Actually, I was just here to support my wife. The wife you just made sit by the trash." The manager stammered apologies. Greg looked at Jack, really looked at him, and the color drained from his face. "Mr. Mitchell, from Heritage Valley AG?" Greg whispered. Jack nodded. "That's right. You own the parent company that supplies my firm," Greg stuttered. "You're the chairman." Vanessa grabbed Greg's arm. "What is going on?" Greg looked like he was going to be sick. "He owns the supply chain. He's my boss's boss's boss. He's worth millions." My mother laughed nervously. "Don't be silly, Greg. Jack is a farmer." Jack turned to her. "I am a farmer. I farm 15,000 acres and sell $40 million of produce to your son-in-law's company every year." My father gasped. "Sarah, you never said." I stood up, the wine stain drying sticky on my chest. "You never asked. You just assumed we were failures." Jack turned to Greg. "We had a meeting scheduled next week to review your promotion to regional VP. I was coming to sign the paperwork." Greg's eyes widened. "Yes, sir, I have so many plans." "That meeting is canceled," Jack said, his voice flat. "And so is the promotion." "What?" Greg choked. "You just called my wife an embarrassment," Jack said. "You made her sit outside like a dog. You think I promote a man with zero integrity." Vanessa shrieked. "We didn't know. It was a mistake." "Exactly," Jack said, looking at her with disdain. "You didn't know I had money, so you treated me like dirt. That tells me everything I need to know about you." Jack then turned to the venue manager. "What is the status of the final bill for this event?" The manager checked his tablet. "There is an outstanding balance of $15,000 due today, sir. The previous deposit covered the arrears, but this is the final payment." Greg panicked. "But the anonymous donation covered it." "No," the manager said. "That covered the overdue balance. This is the final fee." Vanessa turned to me, eyes narrowing. "You, that donation. That was you." I nodded. "I wanted you to have your day." Vanessa's shock turned instantly to entitlement. "Well, you can pay the rest then. You have the money. Fix this, Sarah." I stared at her. My mother stepped forward, pleading. "Sarah, please. Family helps family." "Family!" I laughed, a bitter sound. "You made me sit by the dumpsters. You poured wine on me. Where was the family then?" "We didn't know," my father cried. "You shouldn't have to know I'm rich to treat me like a human being." I shouted. I grabbed Jack's hand. "I paid the deposit out of kindness, but kindness has to be earned. I'm not paying the rest." We walked away as the venue manager told them the reception was canceled. Greg fell to his knees, realizing he had just lost his promotion and was $200,000 in debt from a wedding that was collapsing. On Monday, Greg was fired for expense fraud. Vanessa left him because she couldn't be with a failure. My parents tried to email me, claiming they were proud of my success, but I blocked them. I realized I didn't need them to tell me I was worthy. I had built a life, an empire, and a family with Jack, and that was enough.